Give it up for Cole.
Give it up.
Hi, my name's Cole. I'm a local developer here in Vancouver. I've been making my own game for like the last 4 years. And now I'm going to give a presentation on how I did sound effects for my game. So this presentation is called Making Great Sound Effects as a Sound Noob. I have no background in sound design or anything. And for my game, I needed sound effects. So, you know, there's a couple options. I could hire someone, I could use free stuff, I could generate my own using like a website or something. All those things either required money, didn't really work that well. So I tried making my own sound effects. Yeah, a couple of years ago I found my own company, Rayflower Games, and this is my first commercial project. I'm showcasing it here so you can see it later after the presentation if you want to check it out. So, how I made sound effects for Captain Soda and how you can make your own. As someone who has no background in sound, you can make your own sound effects as good as this. So if you're a beginner, you're a hobbyist, or anyone else who needs sound effects, this will be for you. You can't afford to hire anyone to make your sound effects. You don't want to use free stuff because it's like stock, it's generic, it doesn't fit your game. Generated sound effects like using like JSFXR or some other tool like that to make like arcade sounds isn't enough. You know, it's again generic because it's like arcade synth stuff. But you know, you have enough time to make it on your own. So you'll learn how to make sound effects that are good. It's free. It'll fit your game. You know, it's custom to your game. And it's better than just using free or generated assets. So this is my game. This is just a short video on sound effects. This is what I did with Captain Soda. The game itself is soda inspired, so I wanted all the sound effects to have like some kind of soda element to them. So it'd be like very fizzy, it's poppy. It communicates what's going on. Yeah, so that's like a brief overview of all the sound effects. And this is me as someone who has no background or anything in sound effects. If anything, like over the years, I've learned how to, like I've had some theory on sound effects, like what to do, like fades and transitions and stuff like that. You know, fading forward stuff that is not important. Or focusing on more important elements. Yeah, so general workflow for this game is I grab some sound effects from a free source like Freesound, or I use an existing generation program like SFX or Chiptone, and then I put it into a mixing program like DaVinci Resolve, and then just output it. So that's kind of a simple explanation, but so what you're basically doing is you're taking the free stuff and you're taking the generated stuff, and then you're just kind of mashing it together and editing it. You don't need experience to edit it. You can just use any kind of audio editing program as long as it can like fade the sound and transition the sound, allow you to edit it a little bit. What really matters is knowing what you want to do with the sounds. So you can grab sound effects that, okay, they're like stock sound effects, but you can change them. You can extend them, pitch it down, pitch it up, transition it with something else, layer it with arcade sounds or other things you can find online. So by mixing it together, you can make your own sound effects without having to hire someone, without having to just use free sound effects or just generated sound effects. So you can make it custom to your game, and that's what I did for all the sound effects I did. So when I first started doing this, I put together like a sound mockup, which was like 10 seconds of the game that I recorded with just the visuals, and then I made a bunch of sound effects that were like key things in the game that would help kind of define how the game would sound. Yeah, so that was just like a mock-up that I did a year or 2 years ago, something like that, when it was a lot earlier development, so I could just figure out how I want to do sounds. And I think doing something like that is very good because not only does it allow you to figure out what kind of style you want to go with, you can adjust the levels of the sound effects so that some are really low that are more like environmental sounds or less important sounds, and then you have like the hit effects and the weapon effects, things that you want players to notice with gameplay. Like if you're getting hit, you want to hear that. So it gives you power to adjust it as you need to. And doing it that way, once you make those sound effects in that mockup, you can then just put them into the game and see how it sounds. Yeah, this is a screenshot of my project file in DaVinci Resolve. So this is how I layered the sound effects with realistic sounds that I got off of Freesound, and then the generated sounds from like JSFXR and whatnot. So there's a couple different layers each sound effect. You like you can see there's like 2 layers of cannon, like enemy bomb, stuff like that. So those are different effects, and then there's a couple different variations. So like each one has like a couple variations. So by having multiple variations, the sound doesn't get old. So it always kind of refreshes itself. If you find the sound is getting really old in your game, you probably want to give more variations. And it's like sound theory stuff like that you kind of pick up over the years that, like again, I'm not a sound guy, just things people talk about, things I see online, BBC talks, whatever. And then you just kind of apply it however your skill level is. Yeah, like anyone can do it. You just download it, and DaVinci Resolve is free. There's a free version of it. You can do a lot of stuff in it really easily. I made a whole trailer in it. I made these sound effects. So really anyone can kind of do it. Yeah, that's my talk. Anyone has any questions or anything they'd like to ask?
Maybe you could go into the mock-up a bit more, because if I understand correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, you had your video of your gameplay, no sound, and then you put manually each sound effect in the video editor to line it up with what's visually on the screen, and modify that until that particular sound effect you like, so then you export that clip and actually put it as a trigger in the game. Is that correct?
So for that sound effect, I actually use DaVinci Resolve. DaVinci Resolve is like a video editing program, so you can edit video, sound, whatever. So you can just slap in a recorded video and then make the sound on top of the video in the program. By doing that, it's a lot faster than putting it into your game because you don't need to, add it to the game, edit it, put the trigger in, and then change it or whatever. It's immediate. You just put it on the video, play it, and you can edit it how you need. It's very fast, so it's good to start with a mockup. So you can just figure it out, try things. And one thing I didn't talk about was, so going back to my project file, you can see there's like all sorts of different levels going on with the files. That's pretty easy to do. There's like fades, there's transitions, you can move stuff pretty easily. You can adjust the audio levels, get rid of noise, all that kind of stuff you can do in DaVinci Resolve. And I assume other audio programs as well. So it gives you a lot of power control over the sound effects. So really, you just find stuff online, download it, make it your own, whatever, and customize it. It's pretty good.
Do you think if a game has no sound or not enough sound, it feels dead, or it feels like people mute it because the sounds are bad, or what do you think?
I don't think I've ever experienced that. But if you're early on in a project, it's probably better to have no sound than to have really terrible sound, only one or two effects here and there, because it's kind of like the uncanny valley. It's like the moment we start going into it is when things get weird. People start expecting more from the game. The expected quality goes up because, okay, now there's sound effects, but these other things don't have sound. You could make a game with like no sound and people would be fine with it if it's that style. So I might have misunderstood the question.
So something I didn't see in your presentation was like the audio mixing, and I'm seeing like the game because sometimes it's like very chaotic. So how do you handle that?
The audio mixing?
The audio mixing.
So for that, kind of just threw everything together, honestly.
You didn't do ducking?
Ducking?
Audio ducking.
Not quite.
Oh.
There was one or two cases where I would fade the sound out to focus on like the music.
Oh yeah.
Like when the level ends, I'll fade out the sound effects to let the level end jingle play.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, but for the most part, I didn't do too much with fading some songs out to let others play more. I just had universally some sounds be really quiet, others be
I was just circle rules.
yeah. Right in the back.
So obviously all sound effects are going to be different and a lot of the game. But from the clips, I noticed your game has very like punchy, very powerful sound effects. I was wondering if you have any like broad strokes tips for like what makes a sound effect, what makes a sound effect feel punchy? Is there any like broad strokes tips for that, or is it just kind of by feel?
So for the sound effects on my game, I suppose I didn't really try to make them punchy, but I guess that's just how they kind of came to be. But for the sound effects I made, I try to make everything immediate, so it just immediate plays. Explosion plays, it's right at the start. All those effects kind of happen at the start. The style of the game is very bubbly and fizzy, so when you shoot the bubble gun, it's very poppy. I try to have it make it very satisfying, the sound, or when you listen to it. Yeah, just kind of based on the style, I guess, of the game.
You expand on the immediacy of the sound and how that's important for gameplay?
So having sounds that happen immediately is very important because you want that feedback. So if you kill something, you want like some kind of sound to happen. But also, you probably want it pretty short. In a fast-paced game like this, you could have a lot of effects happening all at once. So having it be really short and really loud or sharp or whatever is important because it you can only really hear so much all at once. So if it's a really short, high sound effect, you can hear a lot of them all at once, and you can count them basically. But if it's a really drawn out sound, it can really muddy out the sound profile for the game. So it's important to think about, again, your sound effects and kind of sound theory when it comes down to it, making it clear, it's crisp, people can easily differentiate the different sounds and kind of hear what's going on all at once.
I do tech audio professionally, and I just wanted to say that you nailed the style. Like, I'm impressed because you said you don't have an audio background. It really fits the game well. I really like the sounds.
Yeah, for the style of sound effects in the game, I wanted it to be, so I know I wanted the fizziness of the game, the soda aspect, like fizz, pop, like watery effects. A lot of attacks have like a splash sound effect to them.
What was your approach with the sound palette? Like, did you think of different like soda-related sound at first, or was it more like exploration and happy accidents? Do you think?
For each sound effect, I kind of went on more of it in a natural way. So like as I went on to each sound, I thought, okay, this is for like this weapon. It's a bottle. So like, okay, if you hit it, it should make like a smashing sound effect, like a broken glass effect. Maybe like a splash because you like spilled your soda on it. So kind of explorative. For the sound profile as well, I blended realistic sounding effects like bottles and glasses and pop and all that. So like sourced sounds from Sweet-Free Sound, and then using SFX and chiptone to generate an arcade-like sound. Since my game is very arcadey and single screen, and it's kind of retro, I wanted to kind of mix those styles together to make something kind of unique and interesting.
I really think it worked. Yes. Good stuff.
What are some sounds whose slowly you have to record yourself?
I actually didn't record anything myself. I just put that there just because you can record your own sounds and you can edit it. I did use someone else's like mouth popping sounds. Yeah. I snuck in some Easter eggs in there. It was like a binding effect. Yeah. You probably not figure it out, but I should have put that one in there.
Are there any challenges with Game Maker implementing audio?
For Game Maker, they don't have audio streams or things like Fmod integrated in the engine. So if you want to manage the sounds, like play this sound at this timeline or fade in, fade out, stuff like that, you kind of have to make your own system to handle that. So for Captain Soda, that's what I did. I handled my own music transitioning system, audio sound effect priorities, and a couple other details for each sound effect. Any other questions? Okay, so that's my talk. I'm, again, called Beernaerts. I'm a solar developer here in Vancouver. My game is close to releasing in the next couple months. It will be on PC, Switch, and Xbox. Yeah, and currently I'm doing part-time contract work, so if you're interested in, if you want a consultation or you want some help or something, I do game maker programming and project management.